It's 911. What's the situation?
Help! Orca has the trainer! We need help right now!
The Pacific Ocean stretched endless under a July sky in 2012, its waves caressing the jagged cliffs of Monterey Bay, California. Horizon Cove Aquarium gleamed like a polished gem on the coast, its glass domes and sprawling tanks a magnet for dreamers and families alike. The air was alive with the laughter of children, the cries of seagulls, and the briny scent of the sea. Visitors clutched oversized orca plushies, their eyes sparkling with anticipation for the park's signature spectacle. The Orca Odyssey, a show billed as a dance with the ocean's soul. At the heart of this aquatic theater was Lonnie, a 10,000-pound female killer whale, her black and white form a symphony of power and grace. 22 feet long, with a dorsal fin curved like a crescent moon, Lonnie glided through the water with an elegance that captivated all who saw her. Her eyes, dark and fathomless, held the weight of 1,000 tides, a window to a world beyond human reach. To the 3,500 spectators filling the bleachers, she was a wonder. To her trainers, she was a partner, a puzzle, and at times a quiet warning. Captured off British Columbia in 1997 at age 4, Lonnie had spent 15 years in captivity, her life a rhythm of performances, training, and confinement, in a tank that paled against the vastness of her ancestral seas. Mia Thompson, a 30-year-old marine biologist, was Laney's closest human confidant. With dark hair woven into a tight braid and green eyes that echoed the sea's depths, Mia stood on the edge of the 40-foot-deep performance pool, her wetsuit glistening under the morning sun. She'd worked with Laney for 5 years, mastering her subtle language, the playful tilt of her head, the impatient flick of her tail, the soft chuffs of her breath. Mia's love for orcas was born in childhood, fueled by grainy documentaries and dreams of swimming with these majestic creatures. But today, a shadow of unease clung to her. Laney had been off during the morning rehearsal, slow, distracted, her gaze lingering too long, as if searching for something Mia couldn't see. Mia dismissed it as fatigue, but a prickle at the back of her neck lingered. The show was moments away, and the crowd's energy was a living pulse. She couldn't falter now. The arena darkened, and a haunting soundtrack rose, its deep notes mimicking the heartbeat of the ocean. Spotlights swept across the pool, catching ripples as Laney breached, her massive body soaring, water exploding like a cascade of diamonds. The crowd erupted, their cheers a tidal wave, phones flashing as children shrieked with delight. Mia dove into the pool, her movements fluid, a partner in Laney's aquatic ballet. She surfaced, waving, her smile bright but her heart racing. This was her sanctuary where human and orca met in a fragile harmony. The first act unfolded like a dream. Laney performed spins, tail slaps, and a wave with her pectoral fin, each move drawing gasps and applause. Mia swam beside her, their bond a silent conversation of trust and instinct. The crowd leaned forward, entranced by the interplay of human and beast, unaware of the delicate balance beneath the surface. But as the second act began, the harmony wavered. Lonnie missed a cue, circling the pool slowly, her eyes locked on Mia with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine. On the platform, the other trainers, Jake, a weathered veteran with 15 years at the park, and Lila, a rookie with wide, nervous eyes, exchanged glances. "She's off," Jake muttered, his hand hovering over the emergency whistle. Lila gripped the railing, her knuckles white. "Should we stop it?" she whispered. Jake hesitated, his jaw tight. He'd seen Lonnie's moods before, her stubborn days, her playful ones. But this felt different, heavier. Mia, treading water, sensed the shift but pushed it aside. The crowd's cheers drowned out her doubts, and she loathed the idea of disappointing them, or herself. "One more," she called to Jake, her voice firm despite the knot in her chest. She signaled for the rocket leap, their signature move, where Mia would grip Lonnie's fin and ride her momentum out of the water, a moment of pure exhilaration that left audiences breathless. Mia trusted Laney with her life, believed their bond could weather any storm. Lonnie approached, her body slicing through the water, her mouth slightly open, revealing rows of conical teeth that gleamed like polished ivory. Mia reached out, her fingers brushing the smooth, cool fin. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. The crowd's anticipation, the music's crescendo, the ocean's eternal pull, aligning in perfect synchronicity. Then, like a thunderclap, the illusion shattered. Lonnie's demeanor changed in an instant. Her eyes narrowed, her muscles coiled, and she lunged. Her jaws clamped around Mia's torso, the force yanking her underwater with bone-crushing power. The crowd's cheers morphed into screams as the pool erupted into chaos, water churning red with blood. Mia thrashed, her arms clawing at the void, her lungs burning as she fought for air. Lonnie shook her violently, teeth tearing through wetsuit, muscle, and bone, her strength a primal, unstoppable force. On the platform, panic exploded. Jake blew the emergency whistle, its shrill wail swallowed by the cacophony. Lila thrust a rescue pole toward Lonnie, her hands trembling, but the orca dove deeper, dragging Mia to the pool's shadowy depths. The water was a maelstrom of bubbles and darkness, Mia's muffled cries lost in the abyss. Trainers pounded the tank walls, shouting commands, "Lonnie, up! Up!" But she was beyond their reach, her movements wild, almost frenzied, as if driven by a force no human could comprehend. Spectators were paralyzed, some shielding their children's eyes, others filming with shaking hands, unable to look away. A mother clutched her son, sobbing, "Don't look, baby." A teenager's voice cracked. "Why aren't they saving her?" Security guards rushed to evacuate the stands, but the horror held the crowd like a spell, a nightmare unfolding in vivid, inescapable detail. The water grew murky, Mia's struggles weakening, her body going limp in Lonnie's relentless grip. 7 agonizing minutes crawled by, each second an eternity. Finally, Lonnie surfaced, releasing Mia and gliding to the pool's edge, her breaths heavy but eerily calm, as if the storm had passed. Trainers and paramedics dove in, hauling Mia's broken form onto the deck. Her wetsuit hung in tatters, her chest caved in, her face drained of color, eyes staring blankly at the sky. Jake performed CPR, his hands trembling, sweat and tears mingling on his face. But it was futile. Mia Thompson was gone, her life extinguished in the water she'd called her home. The arena fell into a stunned silence, broken only by the soft lapping of waves and Lonnie's rhythmic blows as she circled the pool, her eyes unreadable. The tragedy, over in moments, left a wound that would never heal, a brutal fracture in the illusion of harmony between human and orca. Horizon Cove shut its gates by noon, the cheerful music silenced, the park's vibrant energy replaced by a haunting stillness. News helicopters buzzed overhead, their cameras capturing the empty bleachers and the now still pool, a stage-turned tomb. Reporters swarmed the parking lot, shouting questions at shell-shocked staff. Was the trainer reckless? Is the whale a killer? No one could answer, their minds trapped in the replay of Mia's final moments, her smile fading into the depths. In the trainer's lounge, grief was a suffocating fog. Lila clutched Mia's spare goggles, sobbing until her voice was a rasp. "She was my hero," she whispered, her hands trembling. Jake, his face carved with guilt, stared at the floor, his hands balled into fists. "I should have stopped it," he said, his voice raw. He'd worked with Lonnie for a decade, had seen her moods swing, her playful days, her stubborn ones, but nothing like this. "She's not a pet," he added, almost to himself. "We forgot what she is." Lonnie was confined to a medical tank, her massive body cramped in the sterile concrete space. Veterinarians scoured her for answers, brain lesions, infections, anything to explain the outburst, but found nothing. Her behavior was serene now, her eyes distant, as if the violence had been a fleeting dream. Yet the question lingered like a ghost. What had driven her to snap? Mia's family arrived that evening, her parents, Ellen and David, her older sister Claire, and her younger brother Ethan. They stood by the pool, staring at the water that had claimed her, their faces etched with disbelief and anguish. Claire, who shared Mia's green eyes and quiet intensity, touched the platform's edge, her fingers trembling. "She called Lonnie her soulmate," she said, her voice breaking. Ethan, 18 and fiercely protective, clenched his fists, his eyes red. "She said it was safe," he muttered. "She promised me." The media descended like a storm, their headlines merciless. Killer Whale Slays Beloved Trainer, and Horror at Horizon Cove. Animal rights activists gathered outside, their signs reading, "Free Lonnie" and "End Captive Cruelty." Social media became a battleground. Some mourned Mia, others demonized Lonnie, and many questioned the morality of keeping orcas in tanks. Leaked footage of the attack spread like wildfire, each view a fresh wound to Mia's loved ones, who pleaded for its removal, their voices drowned out by the internet's relentless churn. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, launched a comprehensive investigation, joined by Horizon Cove's corporate parent, Ocean Entertainment Group. Security footage was dissected frame by frame, revealing every harrowing second. Lonnie's sudden shift, Mia's desperate struggle, the trainer's powerless attempts to intervene. The video, despite efforts to contain it, leaked online, igniting global outrage and grief. Comments flooded in, some branded Lonnie a monster, others a victim of human greed, while anonymous trolls mocked Mia's trust in a wild animal. Marine mammal experts were called in to untangle the tragedy. Dr. Elena Martinez, a cetacean behaviorist with decades of research, pointed to Lonnie's history. Captured at 4, Lonnie had been torn from her pod, her world reduced to concrete tanks and human commands. She'd had minor incidents before, nudging trainers, refusing cues, once slapping a pool wall hard enough to crack it, but nothing fatal. Orcas are apex predators with complex emotional and social lives, Dr. Martinez explained. They're built for vast oceans, tight-knit pods, and constant motion. Captivity can fracture their minds, leading to stress, frustration, even psychosis. This wasn't malice, it was a breaking point. Park records painted a damning picture. For weeks, Lonnie had shown signs of distress, reduced appetite, erratic swimming patterns, aggressive tail slaps that sent waves crashing over the platform. Trainers had flagged these behaviors in daily logs, but management, under pressure to maintain sold-out shows, dismissed them as moods. Internal emails, later subpoenaed, revealed executives prioritizing profit over welfare, with one writing, "The show goes on unless the whale's dying." Lila, in a tearful deposition, admitted the pressure. "We had quotas, deadlines," she said. "Mia didn't want to let the team down, but we all felt it. The rush, the risks." OSHA's report was a scathing indictment: inadequate safety protocols, insufficient trainer training, and a corporate culture that ignored animal welfare for revenue. They banned all in-water interactions with orcas, imposed multi-million-dollar fines, and mandated sweeping reforms. But to Mia's family, it was cold comfort. "Fines don't bring her back," Ellen said at a press conference, her voice trembling but resolute, David's hand steady on her shoulder. This was a failure of greed, plain and simple. Horizon Cove's reputation crumbled like sandcastles under a rising tide. Attendance plummeted as families boycotted, sponsors fled, and protests swelled outside the gates. Activists chained themselves to the entrance, chanting, "Free the whales," while passers-by left flowers for Mia, their notes smudged by sea mist. By 2014, the park announced it would phase out its orca program, though Lonnie and 3 other whales, Koa, Nalu, and Leilani, remained in their tanks, their futures uncertain. The once vibrant park became a ghost town, its gift shops shuttered, its tanks clouded with algae, its laughter replaced by the mournful creak of empty bleachers. Lonnie's fate became a global lightning rod. Animal rights groups demanded her transfer to a sea sanctuary, a netted bay where she could swim freely and feel the ocean's currents. Experts, however, cautioned that 15 years in captivity had left her ill-equipped for the wild. She'd never hunted, never navigated open seas, never known the calls of a wild pod. She was kept in isolation, her performances canceled, her days spent in a sterile medical pool, barely wide enough for her to turn. Trainers who visited her spoke of a profound melancholy, her once lively spirit dulled. "She's grieving too," Jake said, watching her float listlessly, her breath slow and heavy. "She didn't want this." In 2018, Lonnie succumbed to a respiratory infection, her body weakened by years of confinement and stress. Her death sparked a global outcry, documentaries, petitions, and viral campaigns against cetacean captivity. The Last Breach, a film about Mia and Lonnie, premiered at Sundance, blending raw footage with interviews to expose the cost of orca shows. Horizon Cove closed permanently in 2020, its gates rusted shut, its legacy a cautionary tale etched in faded murals of leaping whales. Mia's family channeled their grief into purpose. They founded the Mia Thompson Foundation, dedicated to orca welfare research and the development of sea sanctuaries. Claire, with Mia's green eyes and fierce resolve, became its voice, speaking at universities, rallies, and legislative hearings. Mia saw Lonnie's soul, she said, her voice cracking at a TED Talk that garnered millions of views. She'd want us to save them, not cage them. Ethan, now a marine biologist, studied wild orcas off the Pacific Northwest, dedicating his findings to his sister. His discovery of a new orca dialect, dubbed Mia's Song, brought him to tears during a conference presentation. The tragedy reshaped the marine entertainment industry. Major parks, facing public backlash, ended their orca programs, redirecting funds to conservation. Nations like Canada, France, Australia, and New Zealand banned cetacean captivity outright, citing ethical and scientific evidence. By 2025, 20 sea sanctuaries operated worldwide, housing 25 retired whales in netted bays where they could dive, socialize, and hear the ocean's pulse. Data showed these whales thrived, gaining weight, vocalizing richly, even forming surrogate pods. "It's not the wild," a sanctuary director in Iceland said, watching a whale breach under a midnight sun, "but it's closer than a tank ever was." Mia and Lonnie's story forced humanity to confront uncomfortable questions. Why do we cage creatures built for boundless seas? What drives us to bend the wild to our will? Lonnie wasn't a villain, nor was Mia naive. They were both ensnared in a system that turned connection into commerce, wildness into spectacle. Lonnie's attack was not hatred, but a desperate cry, a breaking point for a creature pushed beyond her limits. Research deepened the understanding of orcas' inner lives. Dr. Martinez's studies revealed mirror neurons in their brains, suggesting empathy, grief, and self-awareness rivaling that of humans. Lonnie knew Mia, she said in a PBS special. Their bond was real, but so was her pain. Captive orcas face shortened lifespans, 30 years versus 70 in the wild, along with chronic stress, dental damage from chewing tank walls, and social isolation. In the wild, orcas travel 100 miles daily, dive hundreds of feet, and live in matriarchal pods with lifelong bonds. Tanks offered none of that, just concrete, chlorine, and human applause. Public sentiment shifted dramatically. Polls by 2020 showed 80% of Americans opposed orca captivity, a seismic change from a decade earlier. Documentaries like The Cove's Echo and The Last Breach wove Mia and Lonnie's story into a broader narrative, blending science, emotion, and raw footage to reach tens of millions. Schools incorporated marine welfare into curricula, and children who once cheered at Horizon Cove now drew posters of orcas swimming free, their crayons capturing breaches under starry skies. Monterey Bay became a crucible for change. Local activists, inspired by Mia, organized coastal cleanups, removing tons of plastic that threatened wild orcas. Fishermen, once indifferent, protected orca migration routes, sharing stories of pods leaping under moonlit waves. "They're thanking us," one said, his voice thick, watching a calf play in his boat's wake. A cliffside mural of Mia and Lonnie rose above the bay, their silhouettes entwined, a beacon of loss and hope. Mia's colleagues forged new paths. Jake, haunted by guilt, became a sanctuary consultant, designing habitats with natural currents and kelp beds. "It's my penance," he said, sketching a bay for retired whales. Lila, scarred by the tragedy, trained as a therapist, helping former trainers navigate trauma and loss. "We all carry it," she told a support group, her voice soft, "but we can make it mean something." The community honored Mia in quiet ways. A scholarship in her name funded marine biology students, many of whom cited her story as their spark. A beach cleanup group, Mia's Tide, grew to 5,000 members, their yellow shirts a familiar sight along the coast. "She's still here," a volunteer said, tossing a net into a recycling bin, the ocean glittering behind her. The tragedy's ripples reached every corner of the globe. By 2025, 30 countries had banned cetacean captivity, citing ethical, scientific, and public pressure. Sanctuaries like those off Norway and British Columbia house 30 retired whales, their health improving measurably. Stronger immune systems, richer vocalizations, and playful behaviors unseen in tanks. They're remembering who they are, a sanctuary biologist said, recording a whale spy hop under a rainbow. The United Nations hosted a Marine Welfare Summit in 2024, with Mia's story as a centerpiece. Delegates from 70 nations passed a resolution to protect orca habitats from pollution, boat strikes, and overfishing. Mia's death was a wake-up call, Claire told the assembly, her voice steady, Ethan and her parents watching from the gallery. Let's answer it. Innovations flourished. Drones monitored wild orca pods, reducing human interference while streaming live footage to classrooms worldwide. Virtual reality programs let people swim with orcas in digital oceans, replacing live shows with ethical alternatives. It's safer, kinder, a developer said, watching kids gasp at a VR breach. Crowdfunding campaigns raised billions for sanctuaries, with donors naming bays after Mia, Lonnie, and other captive whales. A sanctuary in Scotland opened Mia's haven, its waters alive with the calls of retired cetaceans. For those who knew Mia, the loss was a constant ache. Ellen and David visited Monterey annually, scattering flowers where the pool once stood, the wind carrying their whispers. She's still with us, Ellen said, her hand in David's. Ethan's research uncovered new orca behaviors, cooperative hunting, grief rituals, which he published as Mia's Legacy. Claire's daughter, little Mia, grew up hearing tales of her aunt's courage, her tiny hands tracing orca shapes in the sand. She'll know the ocean's free because of her, Claire said, smiling through tears. The tragedy touched strangers, too. A former spectator, now a marine advocate, wrote in a blog, "I cheered that day, blind to the cost. Mia's story woke me up. A child who witnessed the attack became a veterinarian, driven to heal marine life. I want to make it right," she said, treating a stranded dolphin. Teachers used Mia's story to spark discussions on ethics, empathy, and the environment, their students writing essays titled, "Why Orcas Belong in the Sea." The broader impact was undeniable. By 2025, wild orca populations showed signs of recovery in protected regions, with pods in the Salish Sea growing for the first time in decades. Citizen science apps let people report orca sightings, building a global database for conservation. Mia's story connected us to the ocean, a scientist said, analyzing data from a pod off Iceland. The site of Horizon Cove is now a coastal preserve, its tanks reclaimed by wildflowers, its bleachers softened by moss and thyme. A plaque reads, "For Mia and Lonnie, who taught us to listen to the wild. The Pacific stretches beyond, vast and untamed, where orcas leap in pods, their calls echoing across miles of open water." Mia and Lonnie's story is both wound and beacon, a reminder that love for the wild demands respect, not possession. As the sun sets over Monterey Bay, painting the waves with crimson and gold, one can almost hear Mia's laughter, feel Lonnie's distant song. Their tragedy is a call to rekindle our bond with the sea, not as conquerors, but as stewards. The ocean waits, its heart beating strong, urging us to do better, to let the wild remain wild and to carry their story forward, a lament turned into a legacy of hope. If this story grips you, subscribe, like, and share this video with friends. We bring you true wildlife stories that demand to be remembered, understood, and learned from. Respect the wild, and we'll see you in the next video.